No, Adam Terry just joined.
Oh, hi, Adam Terry. Congratulations on your baby.
That man had a kid.
He did.
Good on
Whoa.
you.
Nice job.
Well, his wife had a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations to the both of you.
Welcome back, everybody, to another week of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry, and I'm very happy to have Curtis and Swan back with me this week. Hi, guys. Hello.
I never know what to say.
Neither of you do. Curtis
No.
is giving me the pregnant pause.
Just immediately say hi as loud as possible.
I am here.
Yeah, happy you guys are back on. It's the Thursday after Derby Day, which was a mess in and of itself.
Did anybody have any mint juleps?
I had a mint julep.
Hey, there you go.
I had a Booker's mint julep.
Okay.
It was
How
very
was that?
good.
Yeah.
It was very good. You can hear all about it on last week's episode at the Burley Market and Cafe. So, yeah.
It sounded good, but I did not partake in any mint juleps. I like straight bourbon too much
I agree.
to do much with it. But you know what? Somebody could probably change my mind if they went and picked mint leaves from, right outside their
10
house
feet
and
away.
stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
totally
I
agree.
actually had a mint julep. A poorly made mint julep, though.
I feel like most mint juleps are.
Well, yeah, that's fair. It was so bad. They gave me... It still cracks me up. First off, it was just bourbon and water. And I was like,
Oh.
okay, that they muddled the mint leaves.
Yeah.
But then they gave me a whole spray, like a whole stalk of mint.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
just laziness.
Yeah, and I was like, this is terrible.
I think I'd rather just somebody pour some of the Old Forester mint julep pre-made and deal with
Or
it.
the Maker's
would much
Mark.
rather
Yeah.
Or the Maker's Mark. Yeah,
Yeah.
than that.
I took the mint like tree that they gave me. And
mint limb.
yeah, the limb. And there was a busser coming, like going
Right.
and like taking plates away, and I went, just like threw it on. She was like, oh, okay. And I was like, thanks. I just couldn't handle that.
That is so...
It was pretty
You didn't
funny.
keep like any of the leaves or anything? You just got totally rid of the...
Oh, I got rid of it, the whole thing.
That's hilarious to me.
Because it wasn't a mint julep anyway.
Well, sure.
And adding the
fair.
mint leaf would not have done anything
Yeah.
for me.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall just to watch that.
I would have lost my
I hope
mind.
the bartender didn't see me, but then again, maybe I do hope she did.
She has to learn.
Yeah.
There's no other way that they can learn other than by failure, I guess. Yeah.
And that was their, of course, their special drink menu.
Sad. Anyway, yeah, I had a really good Derby Day. It was a lot of fun recording at the Burley Market and Cafe with my father-in-law, Brett, and with our good buddy, Josh, and then Noel Rydell, who is the founder and the proprietor over there. Drank a whole lot of bourbon. Cracked open the Kentucky Owl Confiscated,
Oh, yeah.
which is sitting right up there.
Look
Right
at it up there, just hanging out.
Sitting right up there. All nice. And
Just
it's
on a
in its
perch.
little perch. That's where I was going with that, too. But let's get into the episode, shall we? Well, we have our first segment, which is Flying Blind, where I blind our co-hosts or guests or whomever that are on the show with something they don't know what it is. And in this case, it's the co-hosts. I'm really excited that you guys are getting to try this one because I love this bourbon.
I'm confused. Like,
Interesting. How so?
it's good. It's very caramel heavy.
Uh-huh.
It's got the oak, but it's not like standing out as a specific profile to me.
I'm kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting like a little bit of an earthy or floral note to it as well. That's kind of tucked away in the back there behind some of the sweeter notes, some of the oak as well.
And it could just be because I've not had anything yet, but the ethanol's pretty present.
See, I'm not really picking up on the ethanol.
See, I wasn't picking up
Yeah.
ethanol either.
Maybe
But
it's just
we've
me.
talked about this multiple times that I don't smell ethanol. I mean, I'm thinking like 90 proof.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Oh, that's good though. That's real good.
Not 90 proof. Just had to taste it first.
It's not 90 proof.
It's definitely not.
No, it's definitely not. But there is
No.
a note on there. I don't know what it is. It's like right in the middle of the palate. Because you definitely get like the oak and caramel from the nose, but I don't know. Maybe it's an earthiness you were talking about.
It's ginger.
Yes.
It's a ginger note. Why on earth I can pick that out?
Yeah.
I've never picked out ginger before
But you're right.
on a bourbon.
It's like
But
dry.
that's what it is.
It's like dried ginger.
Uh-huh.
Not like that weird cleanse your palate, sushi ginger.
weird. And I mean, I've had this a few times and I've never picked it up before. But this has so much depth to it, honestly. And I mean, I of course haven't revealed what it is yet, but for the price and the proof and everything, I think that it is just so well rounded. And I'm really looking forward to buying another bottle.
Yeah.
The second sip that I took, or the third, I'm starting out great here with the memorization. The finish is good. You kind of got that nice like oaky finish to it.
Uh-huh.
Kind of has like that drip finish too.
Yeah.
Like a molasses kind of feel.
It's kind of giving me almost like I don't know how to explain it. More of like almost a wild turkey vibe where it kind of leaves you with that almost honeyed oak finish.
Yep.
So I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny that you say wild turkey because it is WB Saffel.
Uh-huh.
Which is part of the Wild Turkey Whiskey Baron collection. And
Alright.
they actually use turkey juice.
And when this release?
This year.
Really?
Yeah, just a couple months ago. It is still $50 for a 375, but it is 107 proof. Not sure what the age is on it, but man, I tell you, this is easily the
very
best
good.
release from the Whiskey Baron collection.
Absolutely.
Because the Bond and Lillard, I wasn't a huge fan of.
Nah,
Yeah, and the Old Rippy is it's not my favorite.
it's a rip,
Yeah, that's
like
being nice.
R.I.P. like dead.
I mean, I wasn't upset that it went away quickly. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. I think
But-
the second batch came out though, right?
No,
Not of
there
the
hasn't-
Rippy, of the
The Bond and Lillard.
Bond and
And the
Lillard.
second batch of Bond and Lillard, no
Same?
good.
Really?
No good, man.
You'd
First-
think they'd be like, let's improve.
Yeah. Well, there's something about, and I can't remember exactly what it is, that Eddie Russell is not involved with the production of these products. So it's something like their tasting panel or something. But I think that WB Saffel was the first product from the Whiskey Baron collection that Eddie was actually involved in. So yeah, I think it's bound to be, a little
Naturally, it
bit-
makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But I think this is a great pour. Again, the best from the Whiskey Baron collection so far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a little pricey at $50 a bottle for a 375, but
They should have started with this though,
I think so too.
because I remember getting the Old Rippy and the Bond and Lillard and just trying it from other people that had paid the money, and I'm like, I am so glad I didn't spend the money on this.
Yeah.
This, if I were to get it, I'd be a little more hopeful for the stuff coming out because it is definitely a strong contender.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the first release, there was like kind of a bit of a hype, a little bit of like, oh, that's exciting, let's try it.
I really wish I had.
But then it kind of let down a little bit. This WB Saffel though,
Oh yeah.
this is where it's at.
I think it's phenomenal. Yeah. Well, that does it for Flying Blind. Before we get to the main part of the episode, I got to ask you guys, what have you been drinking recently?
I've been drinking stuff, Perry.
What?
Wait a
I've been
second.
drinking stuff.
Swan.
Prepare yourself.
I'm kind of upset.
I'm definitely not.
You have a standard to live up to.
Yeah, I had some Bookers last night.
Oh.
2017-3. Mm-hmm. Still one of my favorite batches.
Yeah. That's Sip a While, right? Or no, that's Front
04.
Porch Batch.
This one's Front Porch Batch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's such a good pour.
It's just great. There's so much depth to it. The finish is not as good as the 2018-04, but it's getting there. What else have I had? I finished off the bottle of Eagle Rare. I've had some Rare Breed. I had some more of the Rare Breed. And cool thing is, I actually split some of the Rare Breed with my brother, and he went to the Wild Turkey Distillery because of it. And today got a bottle signed by Jimmy
Dude.
Very cool.
So,
of Rare Breed.
Our buddy John Edwards from Dad's Drinking Bourbon was there today as well, so he had to have been there about the same time. which is crazy. John got, I think, a bottle signed by him as well while he was there. So
He's always there.
yeah, but pro tip, if you go to Wild Turkey, you go to the distillery before about noon most days, Jimmy's there. He typically is there. There's only been a couple of times where I've been there at that time, and he's not been around.
Or after church on Sunday.
After church on Sunday.
Yeah, he's there every single time.
You saw him on Mother's Day weekend, right? Or was it Father's Day weekend?
It was Mother's Day weekend.
Okay.
So that is pretty comical.
Yeah. Also, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
For sure.
I know that when this episode comes out, it'll actually have been past that, but this episode goes out to all the mothers.
Yes.
Anyway, Curtis, what have you been drinking?
Henry McKenna. Oh, I had Old Granddad 114.
Oh man.
So I've been having that.
I've been
need to get another
craving that recently.
Oh, it's solid, man. Come on
so
over.
good.
We'll have some.
Okay, great. Yeah, I haven't been over
really
to your
good.
place in a while.
Yeah.
Did you move?
No, same place.
I thought you moved for some reason.
I will be.
I moved.
Okay. Yeah, you moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it all mixed up.
You had the milk crates.
Yeah.
So this past Sunday, I had the opportunity to hang out with Rarebird 101, Dave Jennings, because he was in town for a Russell's pick on Monday, and he also did a little meetup. So, of course, everybody brought a whole bunch of turkey bottles to share around. So we had like cheesy gold foil, we had a 93 split label, we had the first batch of Rare Breed from, which was phenomenal. It was like 108 proof.
Wow.
Oh, man, it was so good.
When was the first year that came out?
You know what? I said it was the first year, but I may be wrong. I think I am wrong. This is actually the bottle that we had was from 2001.
Okay.
And it was like a 108 proof. I'm pretty sure. But somebody had brought the Sherry Signature, which is what Revival was based off of, which was pretty daggone good. I mean, not like amazing or anything, but it was really interesting. But the highlight for me was an export 1993 8-year Wild Turkey 101.
Wow.
All right.
I was so happy about that. It held me over until my birthday this year when I get to open up that 86.8 proof. But daggone, it was a game changer.
Just awesome.
I mean, really.
Is that gonna be your birthday bourbon? Every year, just take some more out of it.
Probably.
It's probably better than the Old Forester. So you know.
Look, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but there are a couple of Old Forester birthday bourbons that are pretty good. But like, I mean, I would rather have something that is more like memorable or special to me, based on the year that I was born, than just a generic birthday bourbon bottle.
Yeah. That comes out every year. And
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, as excited as I am for that, it really did kind of tide me over until August. Yeah, so that's really what I've been drinking. Everything else has been kind of standard. I haven't really had too much super special, other than what we had at Derby Day, which you can hear about, of course, on last week's episode. So, yeah, that's what I've been drinking. You guys ready to drink some bourbon, though?
Absolutely.
Let's
man.
play a game
go
called
for it.
Drink the Bourbon.
I play that game
we do
a
it
lot,
every
man.
episode.
So originally what this was going to be is we were going to do a blind flight, and I realized that I didn't have the quote-unquote necessary tools to make that happen. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to blind Curtis and Swan on a few different Russell's picks. You won't know where they're from. You won't know where I purchased them from either. So it's all going to be kind of... It'll be interesting for me to see what you guys think about each of these.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting because it's going to be really just picking out different notes and seeing the different profiles of probably all of them.
Yeah.
And the similarities between the two rather than, obviously being like, oh, I thought I liked such and such better than I thought I liked this.
Yeah, for sure. Well, gentlemen, would you like to pass me your first glass?
Yeah, and I think the thing I'm excited about learning is just knowing that there is a difference between Warehouse K, Camp Nelson, and some of the other warehouses.
Yeah.
Because there's people, Perry included, that they'll tell you, hey, I prefer Camp Nelson picks, or I prefer Warehouse K in different warehouses and stuff. And I just don't have that kind of perspective on Russell's. So-
Warehouse K is one of my favorite warehouses, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm just, and I know that it's got to be this way with Russell's just because of the way that people talk about it, that there is distinctly different profiles between each warehouse that people look for.
Oh man, I'm excited for this. We haven't done like I know that we haven't done like a real blind flight episode in a long time, but I like this semi-blind aspect of it for you guys.
Smells just like Russell's, man.
Getting them baked goods,
Yeah.
kind of a cherry pie.
Cherry pie, I think, is exactly what that nose is.
What do you think the standard nose is on just the regular single barrel offering? Because I mean, obviously the single barrel and even the regular offering is going to differ, but what kind of notes do you directly pinpoint to that so I can tell how this is different?
So what I kind of think about is Turkey 101 for me is my benchmark for what Wild Turkey products are.
Yeah.
So you take some of that oakiness, you take some of like there's always kind of like an almond note that I get in there as well, almond buttery note that I get too. Of course the standards, caramel, vanilla, all that stuff. But with Russell's, I also pick up kind of a cherry cordial flavor as well.
I could see that just based on this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always thought, at least from my limited experience, which I've told you is pretty much I've had like 3 of these.
Yeah.
It just seems like it always leans towards like the darker, like brown sugary stuff for me. That some of the regular Wild Turkey, like 101 and the Rare Breed, don't quite get into.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just them saying we need 2 distinct profiles, and we're going to lean the Wild Turkey more towards this like almond buttery, and then this more towards the sugar note.
Right.
But I was just curious to see what you got off the original, like regular release that they put out.
So to that point too, I'm getting like almost like a dusty note off of this that I don't normally get from Russell's or just from the standard single.
I think
barrel.
I get that as well.
Yeah.
It's just it's not a lot, but it's right there. Just a little bit of that funk that we always kind of talk about. I agree with Swan on Russell's. For me, always has that more of that darker note. Stays on that darker side of the wheel of flavors and profiles.
This is really good.
This is very good.
I haven't even tasted it, but the nose is phenomenal.
I do love the nose. Yeah.
So I typically stay away from the Russells just because the first one that I had was a single barrel regular offering, and I didn't like it. This is kind of changing my perspective a little bit.
I think that's kind of what, not that there's necessarily an end goal with this, but I if I'm not encouraging you guys, meaning you and Swan, Curtis, but maybe the listeners as well, to explore store picks, and maybe in particular Russell's picks as well, because they're so vastly different. And based on the 3, maybe 4 that I've selected for you guys to try, they're all so unique, and they have such different things going on between them.
What's the proof point on these?
110.
I gotta say, I think the only thing I would knock on this, other than it just being so rich and full of flavor, and honestly kind of having a more oak forward stance than some of the other stuff, is the Rare Breed at 116 doesn't seem to have as much heat as this does.
I'd agree with that. This seems like it's pretty hot. I will say the finish on it is exactly what I want. I think it's more on the palate that I'm going, it's just a little too hot. With that being said, the palate on this is so oak forward.
Yeah.
Just really good chocolate.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because I am actually picking up a little bit of that ginger note that I was finding on the WB Saffel. It's not super prevalent, but it's just kind of hanging around, kind of playing along with some of the other notes that are there, too.
This is very good. I'm excited for the second one to see how it differs.
Oh, yeah. I think you should be.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold on to a little bit of mine.
Me too.
As we move forward, if that's okay with you
I
guys.
think let's all do it.
Yeah, as the audience is aware, Perry poured this, and that typically
I'm sorry.
means you got a little extra in there, but it's okay.
You got a little bit of extra bourbon there, champ.
Absolutely. We'll get back to that.
It's a Perry Scotch.
This one's wildly different.
Yeah,
What the
I
heck?
think it's a lot. It's a lot more. It's milder. It's a milder of a nose. A little
Yeah.
lighter.
Like the last
more
one, I was
floral.
like, too much ethanol, so a little bit of heat, but it's so good. And this one, I'm like, this one's dangerous, man. This is like 100 proof territory.
This is classic bourbon nose
Yes.
for me. I mean, just straight up like, that's bourbon.
Yeah. Caramel, baked good.
Yep.
Like a little bit of floral.
Definitely the oak is present. Not picking up so much on the proof, but
Just
I can tell that it's a little bit higher just because of the full bodiness of it on the nose there.
Yeah.
But
overall well-rounded.
yeah, for sure.
It's just so much lighter than the other one. I can't get over that.
Yeah.
But when you say lighter though, I don't think that it's lighter in like it is thin. I think that it's just not as deep necessarily. Does that make sense?
I can get behind that. It's kind of like what I was mentioning, where you get more of the brown sugary aspect a little bit on regular, Turkey 101 and Rare Breed. This leans more towards that, other than what I consider like the standard Russell's, kind of grip it has on you a little bit.
For lack of a better phrase, I think that this one smells a little bit more fresh. Like it doesn't have the dustier note that I was picking up on with the first pour.
Yeah.
At least on the nose. I haven't done this side by side with, the one that I poured beforehand.
But I think that's a good distinction to put is the difference between like a lighter nose and a thin nose. Mm-hmm. A lighter nose is just meaning that it's wider, it's fresher, it's kind of airier, for lack of a better term. Whereas thin means I'm only picking up.
There's not a lot to it.
There's not a lot to it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely not thin by any
stretch. It's a lot spicier on the palate.
Yeah, but not like, it's almost like a Booker's kind of spicy, where it's not like the heat of it's getting to you, the proof point's getting to you. This is like almost like a heavy spice.
That's what I'm getting as well. Is it's not overpowering. Sometimes with like a Booker's or something with a high heat, I personally get like overwhelmed a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so on this, it's just like an even spice, like a curry kind of.
Yeah,
kind of spice.
I see that.
So comparatively, what do you think to the first one we tried to the second one?
I think I like the first one just a little bit better.
The dusty note.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is that it has that kind of dusty turkey-ish note to it. That, I mean, you guys know I'm a fan of that. And like, while this one is incredibly solid, and I would drink this 9 times out of 10, I think that 10th time, for me in this case, is the first pick, the first pour that we had.
I'm going to disagree with you. I like the second one
Really?
better. Yeah.
Curtis?
For me,
Is this mutiny?
Perry, it's the second. So I honestly am going to be split between the middle, and it's a difference between if I want something. I feel like this one I could drink every day and be like an everyday kind of sipper. Mm-hmm. It's not as mild as what an everyday kind of sipper usually is, but this one just has a little more of a lighter airiness that I enjoy.
Sure.
Compared to the funk or the darkness of the other one.
I think that's where I'm coming from too. I feel like I could have this daily, and with the one we had first, I would want to pour that and literally take the time to pick that one apart. This one I feel like I could drink and I could pick it apart if I wanted to, but at the same time I could also just have it and not really think about what I'm having.
So what point are you coming from when you're deciding what you want or what you prefer from these? Are you deciding based on daily drinkers or regular drinkers? Or are you deciding on what you overall enjoy more?
I think I'm going from the daily drinker standpoint, and that's simply because people do different things when they drink bourbon. Like for me,
Sure.
It's usually video games, TV, music, something like that. But if I'm sitting at home and I'm with 2 or 3 people that are interested in conversing about the bourbon we're having, I'm going to go with the first one. If I'm doing my own thing and I'm playing Overwatch and watching, UK play basketball or something, I'm probably going to go with the second.
Nerd.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm just kidding.
It's
I have
fine.
no room to talk.
It's kind of spot on what he kind of said. Is just, if I'm sitting with someone that I really want to enjoy bourbon with and really talk about it, and that I know they would enjoy talking about it and kind of picking things apart and really getting to the nitty gritty, I'd be like, for sure. But with the other one, I'm gonna sit and watch TV and not have to think about it.
I think that's fair. For me, I'm just going solely on what do I like better.
What do you prefer?
That's really where I'm coming from. So I mean I totally I understand what you guys are saying. It's just, in my own personal opinion,
I would those.
I know it's the internet. I'm gonna get torn apart for it regardless. I just like the first one better.
No, in this setting, first one, it's got that dusty funk. It's got the kind of the extra brown sugariness. It's definitely, in my opinion, more solid bourbon. Especially the proof point, because I do like the kick. I'm a fan of the Jim Beam kind of kick you get. So having it on a Russell's pick is great.
It's fun. This one gets like
Swan approves of the nose on this one.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This would be great with a big, fat, juicy steak.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It pairs so well with the notes you get from a
It's
steak.
just so savory.
It absolutely
This
is.
is like savory, a little bit nutty.
Just a hair nutty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The caramel's taking a back seat in this one.
I think so too. I think the oak and the darker notes are really starting to pull forward. And if I dig a little bit deeper, I can find some like berries, like dark berries. Like blueberry specifically is what I'm finding.
I'm getting the blackberry, but
Okay, sure.
Same family.
But yeah, I mean I could see that as well.
Do you know that smell when you walk into somebody's house and you can tell they just cooked a giant breakfast?
Yes.
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 Absolutely. It's the residual grease of
it's like you walked into Denny's and you're like,
Yeah.
Poorly made steaks were made here.
Do you like this one a lot?
this one's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just so silky smooth, man. The savoriness. It's just
See, the palate introduces a sweetness that the nose didn't have. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to pick up a little bit of the sugary notes. There was that caramel note on there, too, that I love on bourbon.
yeah.
But I really wasn't picking up any of the sweet notes on the nose that the palate really is presenting.
I think it kind of bookends it a little bit for me.
I do too.
On the front, on the nose, you get the oak, the savoriness, all those kind of savory notes that you're expecting. Then on the palate, you get the sweetness, the caramel, the baked goods, and then as it finishes, it's like, here's the oak again. Let me introduce that.
I just think it's really strange that the first one, it hits you up front and stays consistent.
Yeah.
The second one, it's real smooth up
It
front,
rolls.
and then it gets spicier.
Yeah.
And then this one, it's just right in the front. It kind of dissipates a little bit and then gives you kind of a soft finish, but it's a good finish.
This one's the most roller coaster-y
Yes.
out of them all.
Because you feel like the finish is done, and it's like, oh, wait, there's more.
Not quite.
Yeah.
As much as I love this one,
You're going back to the first.
no, I want to go back through and I want to make sure side by side that this is what I want to go with, because I feel like there might be something in the first one for me that I'm like, I really need to
But I know
revisit
why.
it.
I think we know why.
Why is that?
Look at your entire liquor cabinet. Most
about
of it is like pre-fire, dusty. Like
That is not true.
well, I'm okay.
All the special stuff's moved to the front, though.
Yeah,
We know your game.
yeah. We know your game. Watch it.
I'm nothing if not a show off.
Yeah.
So I guess
That's not true either.
that's basically what I'm saying though, is
Yeah.
that your palate's very attuned to the dusty note.
And I think that's probably the only thing that third one's missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dusty note.
Yeah.
So I just went back to the first one. After having the third one, the first one tastes a little bit thin to me. Not
Really?
like I'm going, oh man, I don't know
yeah.
about that, but
Comparatively.
comparatively, yeah, I think that it just has a little bit of a thinness to it.
I think the taste might have a bit of a thinness, but I just did just noses across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think the first one has the best nose.
I could see that. I think so too, actually. I think that it has the most complexity to it, at the very least. Oh, for sure. For sure, the first one has the best nose on it. I think that the last one presents a darker note, kind of a dark chocolate note that the first one doesn't have. But I think in terms of being complete, I think the first one definitely has a better nose to it.
First one has a better nose. Third one has a better palate. Mm-hmm. Second one's in between.
I think the third one has the most well-rounded experience out of everything.
I haven't even tried the second one again, but yeah, the second one's just there's something missing. It's too thin comparatively to the other two.
But I don't think it's bad.
No.
I really don't think it's bad. I think that just stacked up against everything else, it's not as good. That being
what
said,
the second
though,
one's missing for me, it's the oak and the barrel influence.
yeah, that's exactly what that is. It's just more standard bourbon. And again, that's not bad. That's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It's just I taste it and I'm like, bourbon.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. It's just that's what it is.
I think that's why it's perfect. Kind of how we put it before on saying this is something that like I don't have to think about. I know it's bourbon. I don't need to pick it apart.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I still stand by on if I'm gonna drink something every day, I'm drinking the second one.
Yeah, I see that. I totally see that.
I'm experimenting over here.
I see that. You're being very methodical and scientific in your little.
Not really. I like the nose on the first one, and I like the palate on the third one.
Oh.
Seeing what happens.
The second one, I don't feel like it's going to really, add into this blend too much. So I'm just trying those two put together.
So yeah, okay.
So you combined 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try combining all 3.
I will do that after I make my decision.
I've made my decision, so I moved on to the experimenting. There's no beakers involved, but it's still cool.
Sorry, Joseph Brazo.
You should definitely try this though, because it's pretty good.
Can I try from your glass?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
I
great.
don't know if I like it better than one of them individually.
I definitely don't.
Yeah.
It cancels out everything that I like about both of them.
Really?
And it becomes, yeah.
Well, let's add the middle one. Why not? Yeah. I mean, let's go nuts with it.
Oh no,
You don't like all three of them together?
no,
Huh.
not at all.
Interesting.
It gave it a bad funk.
That makes me not want to combine all three of them.
Here, I'll let you nose it.
It's like stale candy.
Yeah, like it's not off-putting.
Nope. Don't like all three of them together.
No,
Don't like them
it's
all
like
three together.
They didn't mesh together.
It tastes soured.
Yeah,
It tastes like
Yeah,
soured milk.
I'm not a. Can I take these back out?
Yeah, exactly.
So just to recap though, we've kind of mixed these and tried to make our perfect blend between the three. And
Yeah.
so far it's not gone well. But do you like the Russell's 10-year?
The 10-year 90 proof?
Yeah.
No. I do not.
I think there's something to be said about the Russell's single barrels because they're picking things in barrels
Yeah.
specifically on what you want. And then when we mix them together, which I'm assuming that's what they're doing with the Russell's 10-year because it's not a single barrel.
No, it's a small batch.
Yeah, maybe it's just not as good. Maybe it really shines in the single barrel
Yeah,
category.
I think so too.
Because this, at least with this one I just made, with just the two, I'm going to try all three here in a second, it kind of gave me that Russell's 10 vibe a little bit.
What's interesting to me, though, is that we're talking about a company that takes multiple barrels, combines them into products like 101 or Rare Breed or even the 81 proof. And those are consistent and consistently good. But what we're kind of alluding to here is that the 90 proof 10-year small batch, made by the same company, blended by basically the same people, isn't as good as a single barrel is. Like, why is there that weird contingency or the weird contrast between how these barrels mingle and the way that they stand on their own? That's something that I don't have an answer for.
Yeah.
And I can't honestly wrap my head around either.
I guess the only thing I can come up with is that's a testament to them specifically taking this barrel would be good with this barrel.
Yeah.
And not be like what we're doing and being like,
Just throw it all together.
let's throw it all together, see what happens.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a testament to
I think that's fair.
the trying of each barrel and being like, okay, this profile would go well with this and mix well.
Yeah.
I mean, just to throw into another distillery, I mean, Kentucky Owl, the stuff he does is magical because he's taking specifically what he wants and blending it to make a defined product. If he were just to take every barrel he receives and mix it into one batch and say, this is batch whatever,
Yep.
send it out,
Yep.
we'd be here. I mean,
Yep.
it's maybe not necessarily the best option.
Yeah.
And this, my friends, is why we're not master distillers.
Or master blenders
Yeah.
or tasters or...
Yeah, I mean, it really gives you kind of a new appreciation for people that are master tasters or even sourcing in general.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
there's so many people that are putting out good source products. I mean, look at Michter's 10. I love that bourbon.
Yeah.
It's not their own product. Somebody's going out and specifically taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that and saying, this is what I want. Well, actually, no, that one's a single barrel. So they're finding specific things they want out of single barrels, just like we are right now. But I mean, that's just seriously impressive to me.
Are you guys ready to make a formal decision on what you prefer out of these three bourbons?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I am too.
the third.
Third.
Yeah.
What about your second pick?
First
First as well?
First.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
second is last, which is, again, it's not for me out of like what I like or don't like. It's just out of the selection that was provided or that I provided. I think that 3 is easily the best out of them. I think it's the most complex and could really be something special to share with other people. I mean, really, really and truly, I think it's very special.
You know what I love about this is we didn't do this, but like, how much are these?
About $60 a piece.
Yeah, so if I went in and I bought a $60 bourbon, Kurt bought a $60 bourbon, Perry bought a $60 bourbon, would you pay $60 to go to a warehouse and then pull out, 3 different barrels and taste test them and figure out what you like? I mean, you get that experience at home. That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
these are not necessarily cask strength. They've got some water added to them, obviously, but just knowing that you've got the opportunity to go to Wild Turkey, pick 3 barrels, take them home, figure out what you like between them, and see the difference in profile, that's insane.
So to that point, though, Turkey is kind of an anomaly when it comes to barrel proof bourbons. Their barrel proof is really pretty low coming out of the barrel. I mean, I've had barrel proof turkeys that are like 113, 112. So when you're talking about these Russell single barrels, depending on the age and what it's actually bottled at, of course, which is 110, there's probably a small amount of water that gets added to it. So what you're getting in this case is really pretty close to the actual cask strength,
Yeah.
which I think is really unique and really pretty cool for this distillery in particular. But
It's
Yeah.
definitely impressive, and I think that if you were wanting that kind of single barrel, try a couple different experience
Yeah.
to see what the difference is between distilleries. If I had to put this between Henry McKenna and Knob Creek single barrel and this has got the most variance by far.
Oh,
Between
yeah.
Which is just nuts because generally I always thought Henry McKenna was just wildly different, and honestly, Knob Creek, I don't feel like has much variance in comparison
Yeah.
to this. Which, is not bad because I've yet to have a Knob Creek pick where I'm like, I am definitely not a fan of this. Like, they are
Yeah.
all very good. But these, I feel like, could be a little more hit or miss for people, which is not always a bad thing because you kind of get to experiment a little.
Yeah, I feel like there's more of a consistent profile is with the Knob Creek or the Henry McKenna 10-year. I think that's a little bit of it, is that with those two, you're like, oh, this is what it's going to taste like, with a little variance. With Russell's, you go, it's kind of a mixed bag. Like, maybe we'll get something, it'll all be good, but it'll be a variance in the ones we have.
The cool thing, too, about Russell's picks is that...
What was that exchange?
Oh, well, yeah, by the way, sorry, off mic. So I just mixed my 3 pours that I had left, and I smelled it, and I was like, this is really kind of good. Even though you and Swan were both going, I'm not entirely sure about this. And so I wanted to smell Swan's next to mine. Mine is wildly different from both of the blends that you all made.
And much better.
I wasn't going to say it, but
Much better.
but it was just an offshoot, little chance.
I guess maybe, it's just, it had like 3 seconds to sit. And
Fair enough.
I think it's probably that. Like, maybe you poured the third one in the last, and that's just
That's possible. It's totally possible. Anyway, I like my blend just a hair bit.
I agree.
But yeah. So, do you guys want to know what each of these picks are then?
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So we'll go 3-1 then.
Since we all agreed.
Yeah. So the third or number 2 in our flight was a pick from Whiskey Bear out at the summit. And as I was saying before, I really like Warehouse K. Mm-hmm. This is Rickhouse K.
No way.
I mean, tried and true. And like, again, I think that it is totally solid. I think that it's a really great barrel. It's just out of the 3, I just prefer the other 2.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't dislike any of these, or at least I didn't.
Oh, I definitely didn't.
Yeah,
Not
so
by any means.
They're all good.
Whiskey Bear also picked this in conjunction with the Lexington Bourbon Society. As you can see, I've loved on it a little bit.
Just a tad, man.
I've got what, like 4 or 5 ounces left in there, maybe?
Maybe.
If I'm lucky.
At least one Perry pour. Maybe a couple Scotias.
Which is just a regular pour, according to Jason. The number 2 in our list, or number 1, based on what we poured, is from Wine and Market over on Jefferson Avenue here in Lexington. This is a Camp Nelson pick. So it's off-site for Wild Turkey. And, I mean, I've said repeatedly, I'm between Camp Nelson picks and Warehouse K picks. So it was perfectly in line for me to have said that the Camp Nelson was just a little bit better than the Rickhouse K. But again, I think that's a fantastic pick. It came in at like $60. I probably will go back in the next couple of days and pick up another bottle.
What's our winter pair?
And can you pick up a bottle of the Whiskey Bear? I don't know if did they.
I don't know if you can right now.
Yeah.
I think they might have sold out.
Okay.
But the
Well,
wine,
that's just what I was
the
meaning
wine and
is-
market, I think they still have some. Now this one though, I don't think there's any left of it.
Okay.
But if there is, I'm going to get me another bottle like tomorrow. This was me throwing a dart blindly and going, I may as well pick up this bottle. This is from Unlimited Spirit on Southland Drive in Lexington. Kind of a hole in the wall place, but they have great barrel picks. They always have. And again, it's a Camp Nelson.
So Camp Nelson.
I have said many times, well, since I've had this, and again, I've loved on it quite a bit, this might be my favorite Russell's pick of all time. Really
good.
and truly.
I would save
very
that
good.
last little bit for a good occasion.
I'm gonna hold on to it, and if I don't, I'm gonna run back over there and get another bottle if they have some. But man, I tell you, from the moment that I cracked this one open, I knew it was special. I really did know it was special.
I was really hoping these would all be from 3 different warehouses so I could say, oh, I've Camp Nelson's my jam, you know?
Yeah.
Like anytime I see one, I'm going to try to pick it up because I know that's going to be a good pick.
Yeah,
To know that 2 of them are from the same one
and so different.
and so different.
Yeah.
Because it's one's so heavy on the brown sugar and one's very savory.
Well, I do have a fourth if you guys want to try it. I think you might have had this before, Swan.
Where's it from?
It's the Hops to Go Warehouse Delicious pick.
Yeah, I have. That one's good. I think.
Yeah.
I think he should.
Curtis, have it
Curtis should
delivered?
definitely try it.
No, I did not have it delivered.
Oh, darn.
I got lucky with this bottle. But anyway, this was fun. I like doing
Very
this kind
cool.
of stuff. We're gonna have to do something like this again in the future.
We should have a true blind
Oh, we will.
flight fight.
We will.
at some
We'll get a bunch of lazy Susans, like I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. I've really enjoyed this little thing. All right, so this week's review is going to be Wild Turkey 101, which I freaking can't believe we haven't done a review of yet. We're almost 80 episodes deep, and not once have we reviewed Wild Turkey 101.
I'm going into this thinking it's good. That's about that's all I got.
I just figured it was appropriate being on the turkey train with all those Russell's picks, you know? So
Absolutely.
Why not do our tried and true, I mean, excluding Curtis from this, but
Oh, I'm involved.
I know you are, but
here.
you just don't hold Turkey 101 in the high regard that Swan and I do.
That is true. Unless it's like funk
Well, sure.
101.
Sure.
If it's old 101, vintage 101.
I didn't know you liked Wild Turkey 101, Perry. I had no idea.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. There's an entire cabinet full
Hi,
of it
my
right
name's Perry.
Yeah.
I drink
And I know things.
especially Wild Turkey 101.
I don't even watch Game of Thrones.
there. I don't either. I need to get on it because everybody was going crazy over that Starbucks thing this past week.
That was so funny. We've talked about this on the podcast before,
Why are you
Curtis.
looking at me?
Don't give us that look.
Listen, this is what I'm waiting for because I'm cheap. So I'm basically waiting for all of it to be posted on HBO, and then I'm going to be like, yes, I want to try that trial membership. And then I'm just going to blow through the whole thing
Yep, in 1 month.
in 1 month. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm waiting for.
Absolutely.
And for anybody that's wondering, we took a little break between the Russells and this, so we could
Oh,
kind
we
of
had to.
acclimate a little bit. Because going
had
from
to.
110 to 101, even though it's not a huge jump, it's still significant enough to kind of throw off your profile a little bit.
Yeah.
That nose is perfect.
I love
very
the nose
good.
on this.
It is good, yeah. I think for some people, it might be the proof kind of might shine through a little bit because it does
Yeah.
kind of have almost like going back to that Russell's, almost the same level of heat as maybe that like second one we had.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
was sitting at like 110.
110, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't know. I could definitely see, just based on the nose alone, why this may not be for everyone, but I also see why a lot of people think this is the absolute, like, pinnacle of daily drinkers.
I fall into that second category
Yeah.
where it's just perfect for something that I could sip on every day.
Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I count about 20 Wild Turkey 101 bottles.
I mean, just referencing his Game of Thrones, the look he gave me when I was like, oh, I don't watch it. The look people give you when you're like, Wild Turkey 101 is not something I reach for. It's the same look.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
So, in other words, you can say that about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll get that look right back. Don't worry about it. But I mean, it's so solid, man.
When I think of bourbon, and I say this about Elijah Craig, they play off so well. They play off each other so well. When I smell this, I smell bourbon with a capital B, like not like I'm going, oh, it smells like bourbon. Like it smells like what I think bourbon should smell like. I get the rick house. I get the where the whiskey has actually seeped into the barrel and contracted and then left the barrel and has become something so unique. And you can smell it in the air too when you walk into the rick house. And it just it has that depth and that overall just uniqueness and solid quality to it that I have nothing bad to say about the nose on Turkey 101.
No, and I don't either. And it's one of those
And I'm
things.
waxing poetic about it, but
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
And just going to like what I, kind of what I feel about it is like when it's going to get really specific. When you're leaving the visitor parking lot of Buffalo Trace
Yes.
and you get into the Rick House area
Yes.
right there next to the gift shop and you're
absolutely.
immediately like,
Yep.
bourbon.
Yep.
Takes me right there. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
in the visitor parking lot just rounding that corner. It's nuts. It's one of those things where smells can really just trigger something in you like a vision or like a memory or something. It's that for me every time.
Now, Curtis, you're the only one out of the three of us who is not as big of a fan of Turkey 101.
Yes.
How do you react to the nose on this one, though?
See, I react to the nose very well.
Okay.
I really enjoy the nose. Where it kind of gets me is on the middle of the palate, a little towards the end. Not the finish, because I enjoy the finish as well. It's right on the middle to the end. There's something about it for me that is just a little off-putting. It's a little bitter. Kind of has this kind of like, that's a little off.
I just tasted it. I think I see what you're saying, but I think I actually like that.
That's definitely.
I kind of do too. It's that sour note.
It is. It's almost like people when they say, I don't like dark chocolate.
Yeah.
And then there's people that just absolutely
That's
love
exactly
it.
how it is.
Like they're I want 72% as dark as you can get it.
Yep.
That kind of chocolate.
Yep.
It's not for everyone, but if you like it, that is something you seek out. It's no different in bourbon. Like if I've got one that has just a real nutty note for it, and then somebody's like, well, I don't eat nuts or I'm allergic to nuts, so it's not really something I look for. I could see why a certain group would finding off-putting, but for me, this is like ideal. So,
Which is really funny to me because for me, it's just like, it's that one thing that really
And especially
stands out.
having just come off of 3 different Russell's picks.
Yeah.
Again, the same product from Wild Turkey, just at a different proof, at a different age, all those factors.
I think that has to be it, is the different age and the different proof.
Yeah.
I think it negates that little bit of sourness that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I've revisited, I've come back, I've tried this multiple times.
I know you have. You've done it on a bonus episode for Patreon,
Yeah,
too.
and I still stand by it.
Which, by the way, was the best bonus Patreon episode of all time.
I went back and listened to it, and I was like, Sean, why?
Not Swan. Sean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sean.
that's my drunk alter ego. It was great. Like, there's one point where I'm trying to explain myself, and halfway through, I'm just like, yeah.
Patreon.com/MyBourbonPodcast.
It's worth put $1 down. Trust me, it's worth it.
And I guess it's the spice / like rye that I kind of am getting. That kind of gives it a little bit of a...
So what I'm understanding for you is that you are picking up more of like the grain notes to it than you are kind
Yeah.
of like the finished product. I can totally see that. I mean, like I find this very specific rye note to
Yeah.
it. And kind of this like purely rye. Not like it's been mashed into anything or mealed into anything, but it is just like it's just rye. So I totally understand that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
I guess it just goes back to what do you like? What do you prefer?
Yeah.
And for me, this is so up my alley. It's so up my alley. I mean, really, like I could have this neat. I could have this on the rocks. I could have this in a bourbon and coke, in a cocktail, whatever. Across the board for me, I can find almost nothing wrong with this bourbon. It's my everyday sipper. It's what, I like to bring around if, people are like, oh, if it's BYOB, I'll bring that too. And people are like, oh, it's Turkey 101. We shot that in college. I'm like, yeah, but try it again.
Yeah.
I think that it has become such a mainstay, such a stigma in the bourbon community that I've latched onto it so hard. And look, it freaking, $25 a bottle for $7.50? I mean, that's fantastic. You're getting at minimum 6 or 8 year juice in there.
Yeah, and there's even some times where I know Total Wine will run a sale for $16.99.
Yeah,
That's insane.
absolutely.
I just found some 2014 Wild Turkey, which once you kind of get into Wild Turkey, you start looking for the older stuff. It's
Yes,
just
you do.
You start looking at laser codes. It's the only bourbon I do that with. By the
Again,
way.
we're counting my bottles of Wild Turkey 101 in my
Yeah,
my cabinet.
but I mean, for you to take an interest in a bourbon so much so that you're looking at laser codes and
Yep.
years and specific releases and finding out the difference between Austin Nichols and this and being interested in the distillery and that kind of thing, that's insane. Because don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the stuff that Heaven Hill puts out, but I didn't even know who the master distiller was until they got the new one, and and that was just, I didn't look into it that far. But then when you look at Wild Turkey, you're like, oh well, I need to get a bottle signed by Jimmy and Eddie, and I really want to look for LLGC for the rare breed, and I want to try what a Wild Turkey for my birth year is like, and see how that's different than what they're making now, and you get interested in the backstory of it. I think that's when
Yeah.
you can tell you're really interested in a very specific bourbon. And their releases are not exactly vast. I mean, they have very limited amount of releases they actually put out, and their picks, as we did earlier, are just insane. I mean, you get a crazy amount of variety just from one distillery.
See, for me, it's just every other product except Wild Turkey 101, I am on board with.
Well, you're wrong. I'm just,
I know. People have told me. That's just how
Exclusively on this podcast, we've
that's,
told you.
Yeah, that's just how I
get that.
I think it's the specific kind of sour note that Russell's doesn't have, that Rare Breed doesn't have,
Yeah.
that like Forgiven doesn't have, that had
Yeah.
all those things. You don't catch those notes.
But 101 you do.
But 101, it's that one thing.
Yeah.
It's that one note that really just puts me off to it. You
Okay.
can say I'm wrong. It's all right.
No, I
know.
don't. I
just-
don't want to say that at all. I don't think that that's fair because we've said so many times you like what you like.
Yeah, yeah.
The best way to drink. I mean, Freddie Johnson said the best way to drink bourbon is just the way you like it. If what you like in terms of bourbon is different from me, that's totally fine. In this case, like you're not wrong. I'm curious about it more than anything.
Yeah.
And I'm interested too to see where my review scores and Swan's review scores go as opposed to yours. Because I just know the way that I respond to this bourbon. I know how mentally, physically, psychologically, whatever, I respond to this particular product. I mean, I just had a sip of it a second ago, and I was immediately taken to the distillery. I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like, I was walking through and just, I could feel Wild Turkey. And, a year ago, a year and a half ago, even 2 years, if you had said Wild Turkey would have been in your top 10, top 5 bourbons, I would have been like, there's no freaking way. There's absolutely no way. It's my grandpa's drink,
Yeah.
but I have a hard time finding much fault in 101. That's just me.
It's just that.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I catch.
And I like...
But it's enough to be like... Oh,
yeah, and I like this conversation that we are able to have over it. You know, so many times we wind up with really, really similar scores. If you are new to the show, we have a review system of nose, palette, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5, and then we total everything up for a score out of 20. And we let you know whether or not you should have this. I'm really, really excited to find out how this scores for each of us. Curtis, I am specifically going to let you go first.
Okay.
On this one.
So for the nose I really enjoy. It has that floral, it brings you back to the distillery that you were talking about. More of that kind of that Rick House feel, those baked goods. So for that, I will give it a 4. I mean, the nose is
Wow.
really...
Wow.
Is really pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that's my score for that. It's so solid and has everything you kind of want.
Yeah.
It's going to be a weird review. I can already tell. I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah.
I gave it a 3.5 because I don't feel like... I mean, even comparing it to the Russells we just had, I feel like there's better noses. Like, if you look at that third Russells we had, where it was more of that kind of savory note, knowing the Wild Turkey's capable of that knocked it down a point, at least for me. And then there's also just others that I prefer. Like, if I was looking at Elijah Craig, I honestly prefer that nose.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just quite a bit that I prefer. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily the weak point, because I'll get to that in a second, but there's room for improvement, and they show that because they literally have releases that improve on that within the same distillery.
Yeah, I gave I gave the nose a 3.5 for the same basic reason. Like it's good, but I think that it could have been pushed a little bit further into the same direction that the palate goes towards, which I gave the palate a 4. I think that the palate really, really, truly is where this shines through. Curtis does not agree with us.
No. Continue. I mean, I don't... Unless you were done.
No, I want you to go ahead.
Okay, so...
We're all just staring at Kurt here, by the way.
The palate for me is going to be a 2.5.
Oh,
Wow.
that hurts.
I know. I know it does. And I just want to reiterate that I have came back to this Wild Turkey 101 at least 12 times. Like, at least. Or more.
That's fair. That's
And
totally fair.
I think what it is it's just that one note that I get right on the front of the palate. It continues all the way to the middle, to the back, and then it finishes well. I think the finish is where it kind of turns around a little bit for me.
Sure.
It's just the palate is just really off-putting for me.
Yeah.
It's not... I mean, I'm not going to say it's, like, bad. I think it's okay. It's just there's something about it that I want more. It's kind of one note for me. It's kind of like a sour, kind of bitter, but has those bourbon notes in there.
Yeah.
Just being somebody that listens to this show so much, like from especially the early episodes, I've noticed you kind of tend to rank the wheated bourbons a little higher. Do you feel like it's because it has that rye and it's kind of known for a higher rye recipe that you're ranking a little lower?
Yeah, yes. I think my palate is more catered to a wheated bourbon. And I actually recently have had a conversation with Iverson at OBC about it.
Are you cheating on me?
Maybe. And
Iverson, we need to talk.
because he's really into the rye bourbons.
The high rye. Yes, he is.
bourbons.
Yeah.
And he was like, there's no way you will like this. But then he went, this is what you will like. And he gave me Michter's, the toasted
Yeah.
toasted rye.
Yeah.
And that, loved it.
All right. So I'm going to propose this, and I'm not trying to leave you out, Swan.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Maybe we'll have you on too. I don't know. But so my dad is pretty inexperienced with rye whiskeys. I would love to do an episode with you, my dad, and Iverson where we just talk about ryes.
Yeah,
or
that'd be
high
cool.
rye bourbons or something.
And I will
just
say-
to, acclimate you to that palate or that realm of flavor.
Yeah.
Too.
And I will say that a part of it is I go full rye, like I just want the give me the Wild Turkey 101 rye,
Yeah.
or it's just like I can get on that profile,
Yeah.
the rye profile. It's just I want it full on, full bore, like give it to me,
Yeah.
like not sort of just a high rye bourbon,
Right.
but.
I'm so confused and interested. I just
Swan, what'd you give the palate?
Palate gave 4.
Yeah, me too.
I just think it's solid, man. There's not much beating it. I think the only thing keeping it from a 5 is honestly just the proof. Like if I were to get a cask strength Wild Turkey on profile, I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
And going back to like I tend to lean more Elijah Craig and Heaven Hill in general. I think I do prefer some of those profiles, but this is great. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 as well. I just, again, I think it's so versatile, but I think that it has so much to offer as is that it can be so much and it is so much. And I'm not entirely sure what it is that I'm looking for that could push it into a 5.
A 5? We're like on that level. It's almost a 5.
I think so. I think it's 4. I mean, it's up there for me.
It's up there for me as well.
Man, almost a 5. We're talking like
no,
George T. Stagg Antique Collection.
No. I'm saying 4 because it's missing something. As far as like drinkability for me, it's on the same level as George T. Stagg is. Like I know you're.
Yeah, I'm different. It's fine.
And I'm making so many
established it.
enemies with this too, but I think that 101 is just quintessential bourbon for me. And where George T. Stagg comes in is that it's quintessential bourbon but elevated. I think it's everything kicked up a notch. Excuse me. That's just kind of where I stand.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm going to be honest, and this a lot of people won't like this at all, but like I've had some of the older turkey I would take over last year's George T. Stagg.
Me too.
Yeah.
What year older turkey?
I gotta be honest, I'm not experienced enough to memorize some of that stuff, but I remember that like the 2010 that I tried from Chad's house was just great. And I take that over last year's George T. Stagg. Now, this year's George T. Stagg, I think, was a bit more solid. I'd have a hard time saying that I'd prefer that over anything Wild Turkey, but it's definitely a solid contender. Perry is pulling out the Wild Turkey library currently. And I'm also taking into consideration some like previous years, maybe not necessarily what's into the shelf, so that 4 may be a bit strong. But it's still, I'm going to leave it there because I know exactly what they're capable of. And also knowing that if you go to the distillery and say, hey, there's a huge difference between what I had from 2010 and what I have now, they'll tell you we didn't change anything. So just sitting in the bottle, these things are getting better and better and better, at least according to if you're just taking their word for it. so knowing that, the 2014 turkey that I found on the shelf the other day, if I hold on to it until I'm 30 or so, is going to be just as good as some of the Dusties that we're pulling, we got on the table now. I'm definitely going to keep it at a 4 for the palate.
Yeah,
I think the longer it sits is where it starts to lose that one note that I really don't enjoy.
So you like Dusty Turkey
Yes.
more than you do today's Turkey 101.
Yes.
All right.
And I think it depends on what the year is.
Sure. Well,
We're
gonna find out what year it is exactly that you prefer.
We need you to like it.
We
Whether we've got to
look.
Get
This
up
is
to
the
80
Man Woman Haters Club.
Yeah.
And
if we got to get you up to 88 miles an hour and take you back to 2010, we're going to do it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So what are we trying?
well, we'll get there, but we have to finish the review first.
Sure.
The finish was the low point for me.
Same here.
2.5.
I gave it a 3.
Okay.
I think it's a little hard to hold it back for the proof point. I love that they decided everyone else was doing 100, so we're going to do 101. But I think it's still solid. I mean, there's definitely nothing wrong with it. But if I were going to compare it to some of the stuff that we've given a 5 in the past, which I think is only one bourbon on the show that we've given a 5, if you're looking at like the Booker's finish, where it's that like deep, like honeyed, viscous, really like gives you the Kentucky hug no matter how many drinks you've had throughout the night, this just doesn't compare. I think it's 2.5 or 3 range for me.
What'd you give it again?
3.
I gave it. I've been back and forth on it because it's just like it's really like messing with my mind because I'm like, I was like, I'm gonna give this a 3.5.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, 3, 2.5. I think I'm gonna go with a 3.
Okay.
And I would say for the most reasons of what Swan was saying.
Yeah. Again, 2.5 for me because it doesn't really seem to develop into anything. It just kind of hits a wall where I'm tasting everything that I got on the palate, but it's not going anywhere. Sure, there's a bit of a hug, but it kind of seems like a period as opposed to, where's it going to go next?
I like that part, actually. Like, there's some where I can tell the finish is, like, a little bit different than the palate, or it's still developing as it gets to the finish. I kind of like it when it's, taking the notes you've already got and just giving you more of it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I gave it the extra half point.
That's fair.
We're all just staring at Kurt, man. We just
I don't know.
I'm not trying to, disown you or anything either.
Iverson can have you. We're done with you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
No, I feel bad because I feel like you think that we're ganging up on you or something.
No, I
it's
don't.
just this is the one time I think that we've been super differentiated in the way that we've approached this, and I think that you might be going, well, they really like it, and I don't want to I don't want to step on their toes or anything. But I want you to be honest about the way that you feel about this one.
Yeah, and I've given an open mind about it. I feel
and
as many times as I've tried it,
which is fine.
And I really think that it's just that one note that really just. I think it's the palate.
Yeah.
The nose, the finish, to me, the price point.
Yeah.
All of that makes sense. All of them, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've got
the palate.
I've got my bourbon too that I did for whatever reason. Everyone else loves it, and I just can't get into it. It's the, it's a 6-year Heaven Hill Green Label.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like it. I really don't think it's that great.
Yeah.
And the 100 proofs that they put out, the Bottled and Bond, love it.
Yeah.
Just for whatever reason, it drops 10 points, and I can't stand it.
So what'd you all give the price on this then?
I gave it a 5. I'm serious. I think if you can find it at that like 16 to 18 price range, this may be the best value in bourbon. I mean, it is one of the better values you can get.
Yeah.
I think the only ones that I would consider about the same price, like, when you could find Henry McKenna 10-year at $30, $35, that was up there. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof at $60, that's up there. I mean, there's not many that I would really consider giving a 5. This is definitely one of them.
Remind me of the price point. What do we sit at?
Oh, like
You can get this anywhere between $16.99 if you can find it on sale, and sometimes they even have like $3 coupons on them and stuff, to about $25 depending on the retailer.
Yeah. I'll give it a 4. I think 4 is. I mean, the price point really.
You.
I think the price point is very like solid for the bourbon you're getting. I know that it's a good bourbon, and I know like all of those things that like the nose and the finish that you can't find on some of those kind of what price you're getting at there. But even in some higher price bourbons, you're not going to get some of that complexity that you would with Wild Turkey 101.
Yeah. I gave it a 4.5. I think that it is extremely appropriately priced. I think that it has everything going for it. But there are times where I hold it next to another bourbon and I'm like, oh, should I? And like and that's pretty exclusive to like a 750 versus a handle. And those handles are usually bottled in bonds. So I'm between like, what I really, really like versus what I really like. So I think as far as value goes, it's great, but not perfect. So that's why I went with a 4.5 on that one. Curtis, you gave it a 13.5 out of 20. I honestly thought you were going to go lower than that.
Really?
I really did. I thought you were going to be like
11.
I thought it was going to be in like the 10 range. Swan, you gave it the highest out of the three of us. It was a 15.5.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the price. For me,
sure.
Giving it that extra
For sure.
point. I mean, it's I don't know. This is what I set the standard at.
Yeah.
I mean, if I've got to compare any other bourbons, because I do a lot of comparisons, like, I can get, Heaven Hill 6-year bottled in a bond for $12, but I'm going to go for this. But it's only $6 more, maybe.
I wasn't that far off from you. I gave it a 14.5.
Yeah.
So I cannot recommend it enough in my book. Go pick it up. Try it again if you haven't had the chance to in a while, or you think that it's, the college drink or whatever. But Curtis, again, I understand why you feel the way that you do about it.
Yeah,
I really truly do.
I totally truly, and I think that's why my score of it might have surprised like you guys, but also some of the listeners, is that I'm definitely giving it the respect that it needs, in the sense of, listen, I have tried this multiple times, and that if you've tried it and you don't like it, you should keep trying it. For me, it's gotten to the point where it's just like, hey, this is just my palate.
I like
it's
that.
It's no longer like
I really do
me
like
getting
that.
in the way of it, or me just saying I don't like it. So I think I would give it a recommend, just because I know that it's just the palate that I prefer. And like Swan was saying, I prefer more of those wheated bourbons, more of a sweeter kind of note. And I think that's probably has to do with it.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway from this is if you don't like Wild Turkey, don't give up on the entire distillery. Go try Russell's, because you said you love those.
Oh, I love,
for sure.
And
I will stick with. I love Wild Turkey products. it's just the 101, not the Dusties.
Yep.
Like, it's just that one note. It's that one note. And
I'm guilty of that mistake. Like, I'll try something from a distillery and say I don't like this and never return to the entirety of the distillery.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I definitely need to, maybe keep trying different releases from them because obviously they're different or they wouldn't have different labels. But, I look at, if I didn't like Wild Turkey 101, I wouldn't touch the entire distillery.
see the nose on this, man.
Yeah, so I just pulled out a '09 Turkey 101, which it smells so different from 2019 Turkey 101. Oh. I could just sit in this nose forever. Just stay there.
This is great. And I think, my score being higher, I'm taking, probably shouldn't, but I'm taking some of this into consideration. But this is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, and the palate.
See, it's getting better on this one.
Yeah.
I'm going. Okay, yes,
For
yes,
sure.
yes. There is still a bit of a hint that I would be like, it's still a little off.
I think
If you get, what's the not the lowest, but like what's the? Do you have like a 2000 or like a
I have an 06.
06?
Yeah.
I'll try if you don't mind. I'll try that.
No, I would be happy to
And
let you
then
try it.
See if there's a definite
Yeah.
cutoff point.
Yeah. It's probably going to have to be off air, but yeah, I'll let you try it.
I just want to send you to like a Rare Bird 101 training camp so you come back with like a Wild Turkey t-shirt just ready to go.
Okay.
I think that you are, Curtis, a Wild Turkey believer, but not when it comes to 101 today.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that you buy into everything else that Turkey does. It's just the 101 that's
It's
being
the
produced.
like modern day 101.
Yeah.
Would you pick, like, if you had to go in and pick up a bottle of 100 proof and then in a 750 for roughly the same price, would you pick this or like Jim Beam Bonded?
I would pick Jim Beam Bonded.
Yeah, and see, that's perfectly
I would-
fine.
You
just
know,
have a
at the
distillery
time, I would
preference.
take Heaven Hill, Bottle and Bond.
Yeah. Sure.
Or, Henry McKenna and Elijah Craig. Like,
Yeah.
I can totally respect that, as much crap as I've been giving you, but it's
I'm trying not to. I don't want to give you crap over this either. I feel like it's not fair.
I'm cool. Like, I don't.
I'm not going to dog on you for it. It's
Yeah.
just...
And I understand where you guys are coming from in the sense of I know it's just
Yeah.
my palate.
I mean, look at us with like Woodford.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's people that would think that Woodford's the top of the line, the best you can get. Like,
It's Pappy Jr.
yeah, it's like it's the best thing. And then there's a lot of people, at least in that I know, that it's just, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's the same way you kind of feel about Wild Turkey. Maybe not as a little bit stronger for some of those,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's just a difference in profile, and that's
True.
why there's so
And
much
I think
of
a
it.
little bit of the difference in between like people who are really into Woodford and like this being Wild Turkey for mine is that a lot of times the people who are really, really into Woodford and say it's the best thing is that they haven't tried like a multiple of things.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it is a solid bourbon if you haven't tried that much.
Right.
It's well rounded.
Yeah.
I think the difference is like I've tried quite a few bourbons.
Yeah, exactly.
And-
Exactly. Well, I think that about does it for our review of Wild Turkey 101. We have a little bit of business to catch up on, though, before we get out of here. And first and foremost is everybody's favorite segment, Tips and Bits, where we recommend something. It doesn't have to be a bourbon, but it can be. So who wants to go first on Tips and Bits?
I got this, man.
All
I thought
right.
about this at
All
least,
right.
a couple minutes ago. I've been catching up on my YouTube subscriptions and going through who I like watching. And huge car fan. One of my favorite channels to watch is Cletus McFarland. If you've never heard of it. Seriously,
No,
that's the
I
name.
haven't.
Yeah, this guy's insane. He's got a older Corvette that he stripped the body panels off of and slapped like a 1,500 horsepower engine in, and then just decided, let's go racing. And he's just nuts. He's got like an El Camino with a jet engine in it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and just all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, I mean, within a couple of weeks, he's pulled like a Corvette that was all messed up from like an auction and decided, well, we're gonna just have some fun with it. And then like a month later, there's like turbos and ram air injections and all sorts of crazy stuff put on this car. So if you're into car stuff, it's hilarious and fun to watch.
What's it called again?
Cletus McFarland.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Easy to remember for our listeners.
Yeah. So, and he doesn't drink Woodford out of a straw, but he's still a
That's
pretty
shame.
good guy.
It's a real shame.
That's awesome. So my tips and bits are going to be. Why are you laughing?
Nothing. So, all right, I'm going to put this on air, I think. So I had to go to night traffic court on Tuesday because I had a speeding ticket. And I was texting one of my groups of friends, and I was like, I have to go to night traffic court. I really hate it, but it's better than going to jail. And
Only slightly. It's fine.
no, it's definitely better. And somebody was like, oh, it would be really funny if you did a bourbon podcast from jail. And I was like, welcome back to another episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm Perry, and I got Shanky Tony with me. Shanky Tony, what have you been shanking recently? And the other half was tips and bits, and I was like, since I've been in this all-male penitentiary, tips and bits has kind of changed a little bit, but Shanky Tony seems to be okay with it.
Oh gosh.
Took the bread from lunchtime, and I'm making a sweet mash in the toilet myself.
Where'd that butter come from?
Oh god. That turns things around.
I think this, like the unedited version of this episode, is going to be a Patreon exclusive. It's got to be, because it'd be so funny. Anyway, start your tips and bits over.
Yeah, I'll start my tips and bits over. It's just funny because you're gonna laugh. So, I recently, Allie and I, we adopted a dog.
Did you really?
We did. His name is Gus, and he is a Maltipoo. And anyway, he's just the sweetest dog in the world. And
I love that
he's
name.
always like smiling. So the tips and bits is specifically going to be, if you're looking to get a dog, you should definitely go adopt from like a rescue, and because there's so many dogs out there that need to be rescued. Like, I understand some that from a breeder might be cute and things like that, but there are definitely those rescues that are
for sure.
And they usually are more loving, kind of caring, kind of things like that. So anyway, that was going to be my tips and bits of if you're looking for a dog, go to a rescue, adopt. And then ask Shanky Tony.
Hey, Shanky Tony, is it cool if Gus
Tony.
stays with us?
Yeah, exactly.
Shanky Tony, who you been shanking recently? You? Yeah, I know. I'm bleeding out right now, Shanky Tony. Oh, man.
Can that be like Chad's alter ego, a Shanky Tony?
Shanky Tony?
Shanky Tony.
No, it's Chaz. Shanky Tony, who you been shanking recently? Oh, goodness. I know that I've recommended this before on the show, but oh my gosh. There is a podcast called The Grub that I listen to that is so freaking funny. It's 3 sketch comedians who get together and they have just kind of this loose narrative and they riff on it. And last week's episode, I have listened to 5 times. Five times
that is impressive.
Since Thursday of last week. So basically every day except for 2.
Wow.
Yeah. The other one, I don't think I've ever mentioned this before. It's a show called Don't You Know Who I Am? Comedian Josh Earl, he brings 3 or 4 comedians on the show as well. And he reads out, different social media updates or stories about them and everything. And it's just very, very funny. You have to go check them out. Don't You Know Who I Am is one of the best shows, I think, on the air right now. But I think that does it for us this week on This Is My Bourbon Podcast. Do you guys have any plugs or social media handles that people can find you at?
I do. I changed mine.
Oh, you did? That's right.
I did. Since I'm, becoming more regular on the podcast between some guests and stuff that we have on, I've changed mine from The Bourbon Finder to My Bourbon Finder.
Yes. Yes,
so,
you have.
Just kind of solidifying. I'm going to be on the show a little bit more and hopefully
Yes, you
have more
are.
live events and maybe even some of the Google Hangouts and stuff that we do.
Yep.
Just want to hang out with you guys more. It's been great. So I changed that and hopefully be having some more consistent and themed content towards our podcast. So.
Oh, thanks, Swan.
On Instagram, you can find me at KurtCon. On Twitter, Kurt_Con15.
As it always has been.
Yep. Same old, same old.
I am at PRaider1492 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find the show at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. You can send us questions or comments to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. I have a feeling like we might introduce some kind of new segment here soon if we have enough new emails where people want us to respond. We'd love to, respond to you on air for sure. Give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes. That really does help us out. If you don't like the show, that's fine. You can leave whatever review you want, but give us a 5-star rating. I mean, we want other people to hear it. Your opinion may not be the same as everybody else. So give us a 5-star rating. That really does help us out. If you have not joined the Facebook group yet, you can head to This Is My Bourbon group on Facebook. So send a request to become a part of that. It's been a lot of fun so far. Swan and Curtis can definitely attest to that. Finding out more about the listeners of the show and having a good time together. Just drinking bourbon and enjoying our company with everybody. Let's see what else. This is My Bourbon Shop. Wait, hold on. You can also head to bourbonshop.threadless.com where you can find all of our apparel and merch. We have some really fun new designs up right there right now. So please be sure to check that out. And then the big one, of course, is patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you become a patron of the show. So please, please, please do that. It really does help us out. I don't think I've ever expressed this on the show before, but my goal for this is to make this what I do daily. I want this to become my full-time job. So you guys can definitely help me get there by any means necessary. As little as $1 a month, it really does help us out.
Tell a friend. That's huge, too.
Yeah, please. Please do. Share the show around as much as you possibly can. That's the big thing about this show as well, is that we're all about community. We're all about helping each other out. And so I think that, if you let somebody know about an episode you may have liked, that could really help us out in the future. But anyway, that's enough of me rambling. Next week, I'm going to have a really fun and different episode. My sister Sarah is going to be on. We're going to be talking about different legal cases with bourbon. So it's going to be a little bit more in-depth. It's going to be a little bit more reporty, but I'm really excited for it. So definitely tune into that. Thank you all so much for listening, for your weekly support, for your daily support. I love you all so much. The show doesn't exist and continue without you. I will see you next week, but until then, I'm Perry.
I'm Curtis.
And I'm Swan.
And this is my Bourbon Podcast.